Okay, Piganiwa, Nadaniko, Suwatsis, Rick Yellowhorn. My parents are Ed and Dorothy Yellowhorn, born and raised here on Piikani. And just before we go any further, I'd just like to send out my condolences to the families in our community struggling with the loss of their loved ones. I know it's a difficult time for them. And our hearts and prayers are with those dealing with such a difficult time today. Mainly my background is in finance and business. That's where the majority of my skills are, but it's not limited to that. I do have a very, reliable skill set in other areas as well. And so I'm very capable of serving the nation, and that's, I guess, my heart's intent is to ask for the Piikani Nation to vote to keep me in mind, because with the capabilities that I have, I can certainly help the nation in, doesn't matter the area. I have the skills and experience to be able to make a difference. Thank you.
Okay. All right, do you want to do your first question? Okay. Many community members believe that chief and council are overpaid. What are your thoughts on the pay and additional pay for things like travel that are given?
Thanks. That's a very good question, and that's one that's been very much of a hot topic on social media these days. I guess that's two sides to every issue. On the one side, there's, for me, in my experience, the ones that perform the best deserve the pay. Pretty simple. And the ones that don't show the results, they don't usually, in the real world, they usually don't keep the job. So that's a pretty cut and dry situation. For myself, I'm a little surprised at the compensation level of the Piikani politicians. But again, I'm just one voice. I have my concerns there. Again, it goes back to what I just said, that I think if the performance is there, then the pay is deserved. And if the performance, the results aren't there, then it's not. And I'll leave it to the people to decide where the leadership fits into that. People need to be paid, they need to be compensated for their time. I get that. But when you look at the lives that some of our people are dealing with and having to struggle, the challenges they struggle with, especially off reserve, it's not just here. It's a tough sell to see politicians with that kind of compensation and people that they represent may not even have a choice of a meal that day. So I think if the results are there, fair compensation, not overly compensated, and if the results aren't there, then we need to have some mechanisms in place to address that sort of situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Another of the bigger issues that's been brought up is the lack of communication between chief and council and the community. How are you willing to keep up communication with our community if you were voted in?
Well, thanks again, great question. Communication is vital to, I guess, the human condition. If we don't let people know what the situation is, then how do we expect to get any, worthwhile feedback on what those issues might be? One of the things that I would do, and would have no problem doing if it was my choice, would to have all council meetings televised via closed-circuit TV, made available through the internet. Members, for example, could just use your treaty number, your status number, to log on. Then they can view all proceedings within the comfort of their home if they wish. Their phone doesn't matter in this day and age. That would take care of a lot of the transparency issues that we sort of have come up. A newsletter, really surprised that that's not happening already. As well as if the chief and council take it upon themselves, make it a priority for themselves to communicate with not just their constituents, the people that voted them in, but all the members that they represent, then the people will get the information they need through the different sources, and also get the different perspectives on those issues from the politicians as well. But without the communication, it's pretty tough to move ahead. You just look at your own personal relationships. How good are they without regular positive communication? It's pretty tough to get anything done. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, there are community members who call the police, often releasing names of drug dealers and bootleggers in Gagani, but feel as if they are met with deaf ears. How would you work with the police to address this issue?
Well, it's another great question. I think with this situation, to just pass it off to the hands of the police is, in a way, it's passing the buck. This is our community. These are our people, our relatives, our loved ones. So we need to find a solution that allows them to progress in their lives to the point where they don't need to use that stuff or rely on that stuff. And if we can get enough people to that point, then there's going to be no need for the people that supply that stuff to these people. By going to the police, hey, I get it. Tough issues, need help. Yeah, you need to do that when there's danger and safety issues involved, for sure. But as a community, we can't abandon our people along the way. We are only as strong as our weakest individual. So if you take that into consideration, then we're not a very strong community, because look at how some of our people are suffering and the struggle that they are involved in every single day. That's where we need to do the work, is to help them progress in their lives so that they will no longer need the substance, and then there's no longer need for the people that supply that substance. I know it's not the easy answer, it's not the quick answer, but to me that's the answer that's going to solve the problem. Thank you.
Okay, okay, got 2 more questions. Do you think that referendums should take 1,000 votes to pass, or take less than 1,000 votes to pass? Why or why not?
Well, I guess the simple answer is no. I think if it's going to be a referendum, it should go by the 50% plus 1. That's the majority, if we're going to do it that way. Within our past, our traditional leadership, they went by consensus, so it was unanimous in that sense. And that was the strength of our people. The wise leadership and the decision-making process that they used to look after the people and the territory and the resources, etc. So that's, for me, it's pretty cut and dry. Whatever the voting age is, whatever that number is, and it's 50% of that plus one. If that passes, that's a majority. We got to respect that. If we want another system, then we need to discuss it and work on it to have it in place. But until that time comes, or we're at that place, then to me, it's the 50% plus one. So if there's only 3 eligible voters and 2 of them vote, then it passes. Pretty simple. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, last question. Within Pigani, the state of the roads are seen as very bad and worsen during winter. How would you go about working with council and the departments to improve the state of accessibility within Pigani?
To quote my mother, I'm going to go get after it. This is a real hot button for me. And let me back it up a bit by, with all these social issues that we're discussing, some of them so urgent as far as needing to be addressed in that. The one thing that I never hear anybody talking about is how are we going to pay for these things? All of these things come at a cost. The government is not going to fund them. Post-secondary, perfect example. So until we're in a position where we, from ourselves, work together, pull together, where we go after the business opportunities, develop them, and they're bringing in millions and millions of revenue a year, then we're in a position to address these issues. Another way to do it is through negotiations with the government and make them the hot button issues. For example, the weir negotiation that's coming up. I would tie in the secondary road going through our reserve with that negotiation and make them pave it as part of that deal. Because look at how many semis are going by on that road every day. I live closest to the road. I deal with the dust. It's just fortunate we haven't had a major accident yet. But the thing that bothers me the most is all that wealth being generated by people who look down on us and whipping through our community every day, no respect for other people on the roads, us locals that have to use them. Forcing us off at times almost into the ditch to allow these semis to pass. And all that wealth that's being generated out there, and we participate in none of it, but yet we have to let them drive through and not have any say in that. When I was 10 years old, and I heard my parents talking about this road being paved. I turned 56 this past summer. It's still not paved. How long are we going to allow the government to keep backtracking on these promises that they've made to us? Look at what they've taken from us. How long are we going to stand, sit, and do nothing while our people suffer? It's time as the leadership that we stand together and we stand strong. Look at our traditional leadership in the past. Look at what they did for us. The largest indigenous territory in North and South America. That's what that leadership did for us. And they got us to Treaty 7. And Treaty 7 got us half of that wealth. And today, where is it? Where is that wealth for us that belongs to us, rightfully? The white man isn't going to give it to us. We have to take it. We have to work together. We have to be strong. And we got to just go and get it. I'm the kind of leader that is not shy. I don't feel like I have to ask permission to take back what is ours, what belongs to us. Put me in that position and I will do it for us. Again.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming out. Thank you for listening.